Hello and welcome to Spookies Hunting for History. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Becky.
And today we're off to Largs. Now this hunt wasn't actually a planned one. We were just here on a trip to the Largs Viking Festival. Becky actually had booked a trip on a boat, which you'll see in a moment. But yeah, we found something really cool just by accident. And to show you on the map where Largs actually is in comparison to Edinburgh, you can see there. But look at this, we pulled over to the side of the road to get a picture of the lovely sunset. And guess what was just there? Look at this. Remind you of anything? Well, if you've seen our video on the Geggin, and if you have not, you should definitely go and check it out. But if you have seen it, you might recognise some similarities between this and Seacliff Harbour that was there. And if not, we'll point them out anyway. So stick around.
Can I come back here tomorrow and check it myself, maybe? Properly?
That was me just asking for telling Becky that we were going to check this place out again tomorrow in a bit more detail. And what were these strange holes, aren't they? Maybe it was something modern, maybe there's been something modern here, I don't know. I couldn't find anything about this place, to be honest with you. It is next to like a sort of lay-by, like a bit where you can park your car and take a moment on a busy road, a fast road. But yes, speaking of similarities, here's one of them. Look at this. If you have seen the Geggin video, you will see this as a very familiar sight. Although we found this one, it wasn't as widespread and easy to notice, I would say, as with the Geggin. And by that I mean just for the bits that really poked out the rock over back at Geggin. This did have lots of lines, but there wasn't any of that stuff sticking out of it, apart from in a few places like what you saw there. I mean, look at that site. And again, it did look like there was maybe more under the water than what we're seeing up here. I would love to take a look. I'm back here at the harbour sort of area, another amazing wee hole. And I need to stop saying that, I do realise. But look at it, it clearly had a function, and it's not just natural. So I'm really curious as to what that was.
I'm coming. I just wanted to grab it, it was nice weather. It could be horrible.
To be fair, we were meant to be on our way to get dinner. But here is some pictures that I took while I was there for that wee brief moment. But we will be back here later in the video, so stick around. Because, similar to the Geggin, the tide was out when we came back. So here's a wee bit wildlife for you. In the hotel, as I woke up for the next day, after a glorious dinner by the way, we saw this wee guy having his breakfast out the window. So just a wee bit wildlife for you, because it wouldn't be a Spookies video without a wee bit wildlife, of course. And just while we were walking through the town of Largs, like the centre of it, I wanted to just show you some of the interesting parts of the buildings that we saw. I really was intrigued by this, I was curious to know what it used to say on it. I loved the designs in this. I thought really amazing piece of work. There really was some nice buildings here and there, and I'll definitely be back. Well, as I said earlier, we were there for the Largs Viking Festival, and Becky did have some tickets to go on this boat, this longboat, this Viking longboat, and that's where we are going right now. But we get some good sights of these churches, so stick around. Here we are heading down to the longboat. Yeah, I was a bit worried, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really like going on these sort of things, boats, but it was really good actually when we were there. And there's the views. And here is the churches that I was talking about. And we will get a close-up view of these later on, so stick around if you're interested. And if you're not interested in that, I'm sure you'll be interested in the chamber tomb that's coming up, so please stick around.
Do you want the camera? Nice.
Now the two tallest spires that you see there, we'll be getting a much closer look at later on, so do come and check it out because they're magnificent up close, really are. Especially the one that was on the right there. And it really makes you wonder, like, are these from an old world? Were these working together? Were these doing something else other than just worshipping a higher being? I don't know. But here we go as well. Look at these strange rocks. I didn't really get to get a close-up look at these, so when I come back, I want to get a look at that because I didn't know what it was. And before we hit dry land, I just wanted to zoom in on this. Really intriguing and interesting looking hill. We'll be sure to follow up on this if it's anything. So, that was our boat trip. But what I didn't tell you was that Becky had actually won a competition to go on the same boat but at night time when they were doing all the sort of celebrations. So if you do want to skip past that stuff and just jump straight to the hunting for history, go to around the 11.5 minute mark, I'd say. Here's a wee picture of me and Becky on the Sea Dragon Vikings boat. And here we are, taking off. Yeah, as I said, Becky actually won a competition to come on this boat again at night time in the evening. When they're letting off the fireworks and doing all the celebrations and stuff, so quite a cool perspective. And this is a really cool perspective over to those churches again.
Well, they've heard something we haven't.
There you go, a wee bit more, or a big bit more wildlife there actually, quite a lot of them. With those birds just flying away into the distance. Now we're actually in Largs for a Viking festival, believe it or not, and that is because it said that in 1263 a battle which ended the Norse superiority in Scotland, 500 years of it was actually fought here in Largs, allegedly. So that's why they have this Viking festival here, and it's just, yeah, it's really just a good time. But there's lots of wee things going on, and this is sort of the culmination of the day where they have they set fire to this. It's a prop of a Viking longboat.
Brilliant, well done.
So there you have it, a nice big fire, and I hope you enjoyed that. Just before we move on from this boat, we look over at St Columba's Parish Church. We'll be getting a really close look at that later on, so stick around for that. But just enjoy these final views of the fireworks and some of the scenes before we hit dry land again.
Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That was great. That was great.
Boots back on the ground now, and let's go hunting for some history. So after a wee farewell to the Sea Dragon Vikings and their amazing boat, we made our way back to where we were staying for the night. And on the way, we did pass, of course, St. Columba's Parish Church. Thought we would grab a wee bit footage of that in the dark before going back and getting some much needed kip for the night. But we'll be right back here, so don't go anywhere. So once again, in the morning, look who was out having his breakfast on the nearby tree.
Back again.
Wee bit wildlife there. And this is us making our way along the shore to check out these churches. We do get up close to both of those ones that you see the big spires of. And that's before we actually go and check out the harbour area again and give that place a full exploration. And that's before we drop by our chambered tomb. So still plenty more to come. So yeah, stick around.
As you know by now, this is St Columba's Parish Church of Largs. It is said that the red sandstone building replaced an older building when it was completed in only 1892. We couldn't find a whole bunch about the church except that it was said to be designed by architects Henry Steele and Andrew Balfour. When we looked up these two, Wikipedia says that together with Harry Steele, Andrew Balfour established the firm of Steele and Balfour, which made its name through winning a competition to design Largs Parish Church in 1889. And what is with all these competitions to design amazing structures? You may have heard similar stories on other channels, and we ourselves covered one when looking at the Scott Monument in our Old World Edinburgh 2 video, also said to be designed by a competition winner. Are these really designed by lucky competition winners, or are they maybe stories put in place to hide the whole truth? The church also houses a Father Willis organ, built in 1892, which the church's website says has a Grade 1 listing from the Committee for the Listing of Historic Organs. They say Grade 1 organs are of exceptional interest, with this considered to be one of the finest examples in Scotland.
So there's some of the official story for you, and sadly we never got to go inside to check out that organ for ourselves, so maybe that's something for another time. But I just think this building's fascinating. Again, I know I say this a lot, but look at it. I mean, it's a work of art, really. I mean, look at all the windows. I mean, look how perfectly, in line they are. It's just incredible. And of course we noticed this wee bit wildlife hanging up on the ridges. It looks like we're just getting birds this video, but you've got to take what you can get. But yeah, back to the building. I mean, I just think it's an amazing piece of work. And here, the usual sort of suspects. You've got these spires and sort of turrets and things like that. And you've also got the little sort of spheres at the end of some of them. What are these components and energy creating methods? Is this a cymatic pattern on the window? Has this got something to do with it? Possibly. Or is this just a place of worship built in 1892? I'm not so sure. But then look at this amazing staircase. I love these. Really reminded me a wee bit of the one back at Scott Monument again. But I just think it's an incredible piece of work, and it really does make you think, was this built in 1892? And it gets a little bit more interesting when we go to the other church, so do stick around for that. But before we move on, look at this. What was this, from a gas lamp or something back in the day? We're not sure, but we wanted to capture it. So yeah, enjoy these last pictures before we move on. So there's where we're headed, towering above all the other buildings in the area. And just to be clear, I guess, the reason we wanted to show these churches is because, you know, there's a lot of theories out there that churches like this weren't just built as a place of worship, and they may have been built for another purpose, a purpose that maybe we don't really understand fully, but there's lots of theories out there. And one of those is that it could have been some sort of energy creation sort of station, like a power station or something like that. There's a few different ideas floating around, but with that in mind, we just wanted to capture these and look at that. It's an amazing piece of work. To think that they did that in 1892, whenever they did it, it's such an amazing feat. And here's a look at the windows on this one. A little bit different to what we just saw at St. Columba's Parish Church, but there's a lot of similarities, I'd say, as well, actually. So yeah, I thought that was something else just to note. So what do you think about these churches so far? Please put your thoughts in the comments and share them with us, because we really value that. But for now, here's Becky to tell you a wee bit more of the official story about it.
This one is known as Clark Memorial Church. ScotlandChurchesTrust.org says it was gifted by John Clark of the Anchor Thread Mills in Paisley and designed by William Kerr of T.G. Abercrombie in Paisley in 1892. The same year as Columba's, surely not. Just like St. Columba's, it is red sandstone, and strangely enough, it's also said to feature an organ by Father Willis in 1892.
So there you have it, some very strange coincidences there, wouldn't you agree? Same year of being designed, same material obviously, and it's even got one of those grand organs inside it, so yeah. And it's not like Largs is some big super city and needs all these churches, because if you look up Largs now, it says that the population's around 11,000, so I would have imagined it would have been less back then, which is really intriguing to think about. And I wanted to capture this because it reminded me of the sort of, the hazardous symbol of today. Now this is round the other end of the building, and you'll see how magnificent this is. I did not expect to see these. So this is actually meant to be statues of Moses and St. John, believe it or not. That's the official story. And I think they're magnificent. I mean, to see these on a building I think it's amazing. I mean, look at this. What is this creature at their leg? Some sort of bird. Yeah, lots of cool things going on in this building. I absolutely love it. But another intriguing thing that I found about it was said to have costed £30,000. Now, if you've been watching on this channel, you know that we see some inconsistencies here when looking at prices around this sort of era of the late to mid 1800s. Particularly speaking about the building of structures, that is. For example, the Scott Monument in our Old World Edinburgh 2 video was said to have cost just over £16,000. And then you had the Craigentinny Marbles in Old World Edinburgh 1, which was had £20,000 allocated to it. And they're all very different sizes and very different sort of intricacies and stonework. So I just find it really strange how, all these sort of amounts are flying around there. Anyway, it's time to go back to where this video started, as we return to this very strange looking rocky area just at the side of the road that had the sort of harbour looking thing, reminding us back at the Geggin in Seacliff Harbour. And a similar story to the Geggin, as you can see there when we returned, the tide was out, so we could explore more. And just to show you where it is in relation to the Geggin, right across the other side of Scotland, the S is where Edinburgh is, where we are, but you can see there, quite interesting.
Cool shit, eh?
And there really is some cool and really interesting little bits around here, so stick around and we'll try and show some of it. And if you notice anything, please put it in the comments, because, you know, more than likely going to come back here, because this was just something we found by accident. And just to note, by the way, probably should have said this at the start, but this video, all the footage was actually recorded on our phones, and that's because we usually use a GoPro, but I'd actually left the battery sitting back at home. Yeah, very sensible. So everything was recorded with our phone, so a little bit lesser quality than usual. But hopefully we can still clearly show some of the things that we're talking about. And here's one of those areas we wanted to show. Look at how flat this gap is between the rock, really not looking like something natural, does it? Reminded us of some of the things again at the gig, and although this stuff really did seem way worse condition, like it is, you know, it's not been through a good time, put it that way. But just another angle looking at this is really interesting. Look how flat it is. I didn't think that this could be natural, at least that's what my thought was. And what was even stranger was there was this sort of rounded, sort of cylindrical part joining the two flat areas of stone. So I wanted to note that because I thought that was just quite unusual. And just showing the sort of layout of this area, all these unusual shapes and lines and everything like that in it. I mean, look at this big thick sort of stuff poking out the middle, the line going straight up again. Sort of very similar to the Gegging, but it does look way worse condition. A wee bit more wildlife there, although I wasn't sure if an RIP was maybe in order for this one. But yeah, just another wee look around this area, and if you notice anything, please, again, I said this in the Gegging and it was really helpful, but if you do notice anything when we're panning around that maybe we've not, because that happens a lot I'm sure, please put it in the comments, because we will be coming back here to have a proper look around sometime. But here is some of the footage we got while we were there, and again it was very intriguing. So we're back at this flat bit, and look at that line, look how far it actually goes along, almost as if it's there on purpose. Again, I just find it so hard to believe a lot of these straight lines are natural. Look how far along this is still going. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it? And you can see the sort of yellow, that's the areas where the water would have been if the tide was still in. So the other day we just simply wouldn't have seen that. So it was really, really worthwhile coming back. And what is this thick sort of black stuff? This is really unusual. Was this a render? Is this part that's left? Was this a finish? What is this? Leave your thoughts in the comments on that one, please. I'm actually not so sure I could give even a theory right now as to what it was, because I don't think we're seeing enough of it. I think this is just a tiny, as you know, as Paul Cook would say, this is a tiny crumb. So I don't actually know what this could have been, but I definitely think it was something. And as you'll see, there's some more strange, intriguing areas coming up at this place. And there you go, even more wildlife. An exotic seagull in the wild. Here's the area that I showed earlier on that's appeared to have that stuff sticking out of the stone, like back at the gig, and you can follow that line along and you can see other sections as you go along the way. It really does seem like that. It does seem some sort of poured substance. And speaking of that, look at this. How amazing is that? I mean, look at all the lines going in separate directions, almost like it's been manipulated by someone to be like that, if you know what I mean. And we found what appeared to be a wee den where a crab seems to shed off his shell, or maybe it is just a dead crab, I don't actually know. Rest in peace if that's the case. But we are walking round to the other side of this sort of harbour looking area now, just wanted to show you this screenshot to show you how straight that entrance is, really looking artificial.
What jank? Think it was sad?
I do. I think it was something, and it's not just because of what you're seeing so far. There are other things that you'll see coming up that I think it. But look at that. Look at that wall. Look at the shapes in it. Are these cracks, or was it built like that? Are these blocks? Is this? I mean, what? Is there so many questions that come with this place? I think. Yeah, I think this really needs a proper look at. And look at this. This was down inside it. What's behind these blocks? Is there something behind there? Is there an entrance? Is something being covered up? I find that fascinating. There's no way. I mean, look at that. There's no way that that's just formed like that. There's definitely been something done here, and I can't seem to find anything about it. So if I'm missing something, please let me know. And here's another one of those interesting, usual features that you see in places like this, that we saw in Roslyn Glen, we've seen in the Geoghegan, we've seen many places. So it really does make you think. And look at this. I mean, this felt like a rock. It was heavy. It was solid. Couldn't even lift it. It was that heavy. But it seemed to have imprints of it, like it was in a bag. It reminded me of a sandbag, and I actually thought that's what it was at first. And if it is, then it's managed to turn completely solid like that. So I thought that was really, really interesting.
Cool, eh?
Now I am about to move further along and explore along the coast a little bit, but before then I wanted to show what this the sort of darker, thicker area looked like on top. And you can see these sort of areas. It looks almost like steps there, and there was all sort of little alcoves and divots for water, and things like that. Here it is up close. I think it was really intriguing, and as I said, I do believe that this is some sort of really old structure, so I believe that this is part of it. Obviously completely different now to whatever it used to look like. And as I went further exploring down here, I started to believe that even more. And there was areas that looked like steps here and there. There was areas that clearly looked like cut straight blocks or moulded straight blocks. And yeah, it really sort of solidified it in my brain that this has to be, I don't want to say man-made, but it has to be artificial. Yeah, it's created by some sort of being at some point in our history, and I genuinely believe that. I mean, look at that, just like a big giant sponge. But as you'll see, there's bits coming up that are complete opposite of that, and they're still in pretty good nick. And here's one of those parts, and again, just like at the Geoghegan, the stuff with the yellow sort of on it would be under the water if the tide wasn't out. I mean, look at this. Surely this cannot be natural. I mean, look at that angle. If someone could explain to me how this has been formed, then please do. But I just see this as completely artificial. Now we just wanted to share this because to me that looked like some old steps. I mean, maybe I'm looking too much into this, but it really does just look like, loads of artificial parts to me, and they did look like steps. And look at this. This reminded me of some of the sort of chunks of stuff you see wedged, and I say stuff because I don't actually know what it is, but the stuff that we saw back at the Geoghegan that sort of poked up between rocks. They seem to be down there. And here's a wall. I mean, this reminded us again of a lot of the walls we see at Roslyn Glen, where it really looks artificial. I mean, and there are stones and stuff in parts of these, and a lot of people might say, well, that's natural then. But no, when you look at it up close, it seems to be in specific areas where there's stones, and then there's other areas where it's completely smooth, clean sandstone with really nothing else in there.
Maybe.
Aye, what's been going on here then, eh? A really intriguing spot. Again, it looked like it'd been covered up with something. Was that modern? Was it old? It seems to be old, and it seems to be like there's something back there. There's a gap there, couldn't really see anything in it. Did shine my torch, but nothing. It really a strange area, and really making you question what's going on underneath all this like concrete looking stuff. And look at it, speared down the side, and it looks like it's formed a slope, but it's definitely covering up something, right? And as you just saw there is modern bits of rubble here and there sprinkled about, so it's not like that is common. But yeah, there's clearly been something going on here. Another point I wanted to make notice of was this. If you look at where the arrow's pointing, this sort of area with two lines at each side, right in the centre of the screen, it seemed to go along and then stop, almost like a bit of it was damaged or something, but then you can see it there. It looks like there was maybe something there and it's, broken away, I'm not sure. But there did seem like there was something else going on here at one time. And just to sort of give you the layout of the land as we normally do, here's a wee pan round of the area. It would appear like that concrete is modern then, for the road, to support the road it looks like, and it's just covered up whatever was there before. That's the picture we're getting from here anyway. There was a structure here you can see through there. I couldn't find much on that, but could that have been related to this in some way, who knows? And there's this bit, really reminded me of kind of like a small Geggin in a way, at least that's the way I thought of it. And some of the interesting lines in the area. Now, how interesting is this area, right? I don't really know what to make of it, but except that it looks completely artificial again. Straight angles, straight lines, sort of rustic look. What was this? Did something go in here? Did something plug in here? Or did what is this? I mean, I really have no idea. I thought it really was a spectacular spot, and you know, what would it take for something like that to form naturally? And more than that, what would it take for someone to actually cut it that straight? Lots of intriguing things to think about there. Now I wanted to show this again because it showed a sort of, almost like two materials. Like this is the sandstone, and then you've got like this thicker outer sort of layer on it. Look at that, a protective coating, I don't know. But it reminded me of the darker stuff we saw along at the really straight edge, if you want to call it a harbour entrance, but at the straight edge of there. And here's just some more pictures of the area before it's almost time to move on.
Oh yeah? Ah, you can practically walk around it now. Mad, eh?
So just before leaving, we realised that the tide had went out even further. So I thought it would be silly not to go down there and try and film a wee bit more of it. And look at that, some great views again of this area. What's underneath all this rubble? What was this bit? Really curious. And here's a bit of the metal sort of looking stuff poking out, just like at the Geggin. Really does look metal, this stuff, when you look at that. It could just be like the iron sheet in the partitions that Paul Cook speaks about. Possibly. Or could it just be something else? Possibly that too. But leave your thoughts in the comments. I think more along the lines of the partition sort of theory. And look at this. What could this have been? Is this a similar structure to back at Seacliff Harbour, or is this something different? One thing that's clear in my mind is this is something. I think this is built, and I've said this many times in this video, and look at these shapes. Did they all have a purpose? I'm really curious, and I would love to come back here and give it a proper look around. And what I mean by that is the sort of wider area. You know, have a real poke around, go down the coast a wee bit, maybe venture inland a wee bit, all around this surrounding area, just to have a real look around what's going on. Because there might be much more to find. You just don't know. Now it really is almost time to leave. We had a drive still ahead of us to go all the way back to Edinburgh, and we still had one more stop, so stick around for that. Before we do that, please enjoy these final little these views from the area. And this, another wee interesting feature there. Could be completely natural, this one, with a puddle of water and stuff, but I like to get anyway, because I thought it looked intriguing. But yeah, what do you think of this area? Please do let us know. I found it very intriguing. As I've said many times, I think it's definitely fabricated and not natural. There's lots of wee things, interesting things to see in the area, and I'd love to come back and have a really good look at the surrounding area as well, and maybe go a little bit further up and down the coast to see if there's anything you know, similar there. Actually, looking where you're looking at now, I thought there might have been a cliff face there like we usually see, but I really don't know. I'd love to have a look around, so we will be back. Finally, before we move on now, I thought this looked like a footprint, albeit not human, as it appeared to have those two little strange toe marks at the top. Or was this just a toe mark from making it with, I don't know. Really intriguing. Again, please leave your thoughts in the comments on that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
For comparison.
So now you'll see we're on a wee trip to Douglas Park to see if we can find this Neolithic tomb that's just listed there on the map. So please join us for the final hunt.
Witch's Garden.
I feel like these are things your dad would probably have me carried on.
Definitely spooky's vibe.
I'm not even done right this. This is known as Haylie Chambered Tomb. It is said to have been discovered by James Wilson of Haylie in 1772, and it's located in Douglas Park. This was originally covered by a cairn, a sort of stone heap. Check out our pyramid video if you want to see more. Sadly, it is said all the stones were removed from here to be used for the building of dykes in the estate. When it was excavated, it is said the remains of 5 bodies were discovered inside, with the structure itself said to date back to about 3000 BC. It could be possible, then, that this was repurposed as a tomb sometime later, with its original function remaining unknown.
Point out that there's a sort of ditch it looked like here, and when you're there it's really obvious, but it's hard to make out on the camera. But yeah, what do you think about this wee thing? Just a wee extra we thought we'd throw in since we were passing by. Please do enjoy. Let us know your thoughts as always, and I'll be right back. When you look at this thing right up close, it's actually really cool to see. Look at it filled with all these other sort of types of stone and rocks or whatever in the middle of it. I thought it was really interesting. You know, as Becky said, they say that this is around 3,000 years old. I mean, very old. But then it makes me question more about it. Because the stone itself looked quite unusual. But yeah. Maybe I'm looking way too much into it. Very cool place to look at though, and I love visiting these sort of historic sites. I mean, look at this on the inside. I really wonder how many people have seen this through their times, how many people have used it, and you know, there's a really wee intriguing part I thought up here on the top. I liked how these stones sort of formed a circle within the stone, which again, just another wee feature that I found interesting. And just before we leave here, there's a site you can see over at the church that we were at earlier. But yeah, that is us leaving Douglas Park. So thank you so much for joining us for another video. If you liked it, please do give us a wee like.
Or maybe subscribe if you haven't already.
But most of all, thank you for joining us. Cheerio.